Great. Scott's here. Look at us. Queued up before schedule. I think that people... No, thank you. I've got... You notice that?
Like you should be drinking water and not alcohol.
I did, and I thanked her, and she told me that you told her to send them, so she did. So thank you. I'm sending you something else that she just sent me. Okay. Do you have Melanie Penrod on your Facebook site surrounding takes all those beautiful pictures? She posted.
Yeah, I thought about it.
I was going to reach out to them. Neither one of them had wildlife, but Melanie also said she got pictures. She did. I clicked her. She sent 3 different emails. I didn't see wildlife, but I could be wrong. I clicked it on my phone, and it was like I just kind of flipped through to see what all was there, and was like, oh, good, there's going to be some things that we can use. Are you going to read it during updates? Is it to not put them on there? Okay, because we could talk about it. I'm doing the newsletter right now. It's getting really long, though. But I just keep thinking.
Just declare it. It's not like it benefits you or
Oh, did Jerry keep me and Suzanne?
Yep, he did.
He can run a meeting if he needs to.
Well, you'd have to ask Callie how well it went, but...
Calling to order the Parowan City Council meeting for October 24th, 2024. It's 5:30 p.m. Thank you to those of you who are here. We always appreciate having people from the community come and be in the meeting with us. Tonight, we're going to have our opening ceremonies by Councilmember David Burton. He's going to offer a prayer and then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Heavenly Father, we are indeed grateful for the opportunity to meet here together in the capacity of this City Council meeting. We are grateful for the blessings that Thou hast bestowed upon us and upon this city. We are grateful for the comfortable surroundings which we enjoy, for the bounties that we enjoy. We're grateful for the moisture we've received, and we're grateful for this beautiful evening in which we're able to meet. We ask, Heavenly Father, at this time for Thy Spirit and Thy guidance to be here in abundance, that Thou will guide all those that will make decisions, and that we will do so with Thy guidance and direction and inspiration, and with contemplating what is in the best interest for the good of the whole of this community. We are grateful for the opportunity which we have to meet and for the freedoms which we have in this country, and we pray that we will be blessed, be able to continue to enjoy these blessings of freedom, and that we will do those things that will enable us to enjoy these freedoms, exercising our right to vote and being involved in doing all that we can to contribute to our community. We again ask for Thy blessings this night, for Thy Spirit, Thy guidance, and Thy direction. And we thank Thee for all we have, and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Would you please stand following the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, David.
All right, we do have a small change on the agenda under the work meeting. IPA needs to be changed to UAMPS, so if you'll just mark that out on your agenda and put UAMPS there when you hear from Jeremy, it won't be as confusing. And do we have any conflicts with or personal interest in any of these agenda items?
Mayor,
No, Mayor.
Mayor, I need to just declare, I don't know if it's a conflict or not, but on item number 10, I do work for the Iron County School District. I just wanna make that known.
Okay. Thank you. All right, now we're moving into our public comment time, and this time is now yours. Those of you who are here, you have a 2-minute time limit, and you can come to the microphone and just state your name, and you can tell us what we need to know.
I'm Diane Gibb. We live on 610 West Old Highway. I think you know where that is. And thank you for the prayer. Parowan,
You're welcome.
we love living in Parowan. And our whole intent is always to make it a better place. We do love this city. And so the reason I was going to come was to talk about walking trails. But I came last week and met up with Rochelle, and so Molly and them, they sent me the map you've already created for walking trails. It's awesome, 'cause I do walk every day, and I know there are many other walkers. As I put out some messages, they all responded, oh, this would be wonderful, 'cause Highway 91 is getting very busy, even when you're walking facing the traffic, you know, and it isn't easy. I fell once, I'm okay, but we just need the trails, I think, in the city to help us. Even people visiting, you know, it would be such a wonderful thing for them to know there is a place to walk so they can see the beauty around us. So I wanted to thank you for moving forward on that. I don't know what the time scale is in your planning of those trails. I know there's a lot you have to do, but we're supporting you. So let us know how we can help to create those trails. As I understood, they'd be 12 feet, right? Is that right? Wide? And will they be gravel, or will it be an asphalt walk? Do you know, or have you decided?
Can I address, I wanted to say, so step one was get our active transportation plan done, which we did. We had that grant, and we did that.
Uh-huh.
Step two wasn't the real step two, but we hired our new public works director, which he is a trail building fool.
Awesome.
And he is excited about trails, and he's built a lot of trails. He knows how to go and get grants for trails, and so that's Aldo. He's excited to start building some trails.
Good.
They're incredibly expensive. They're like mini roads, and
Yeah.
but he knows how to build them, and he knows how to go after money and get them. And
Yeah.
he's currently working on. Of course, we want to get a trail up the canyon.
Uh-huh.
And
Sure.
but we will be working on it, and there will be lots of stuff for people to do, donate
Okay.
and help, and anyways, we're excited.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard of the My Hometown program. My daughter up in Brigham City is incorporating that into that city, and that actually, it's the city works with all the churches, all of the churches. And I'd really have to look more into that. But that's one way we could help you on those trails, because it becomes a unified effort of the city and the residents here, because that's what we want, and you do too. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for making
Thanks,
us aware of that
Thank you.
resource.
Thank you for coming.
All right, there's only 3 of you left out there, and I don't see anybody really paying attention. Just kidding. Here he comes.
My name's Michael McGee. Jennifer and I took over in June, running the shelter, PAL. And I just wanted to thank you. I like what you guys do. It's tough. I don't know how you guys can, but thank you. I enjoy working with you guys. But we just wanted you to be aware that we're trying to build a relationship with LifeQuest so that those girls can volunteer with us, 'cause we've been getting calls, so we're just making sure we're doing it legally, responsibly, and fun for them. So, and I think the other thing that we wanna try and help with is the cats there's just a ton of cats. This is very new territory for us, so we're open to suggestions on how we can help with that. It's eking along, but we're gonna start looking for grants and things to just, whatever for the community involving animals, just with food, people that are financially struggling with, helping out with that, dealing with the cat problem around here and helping out more with surrenders, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to do more, and we're trying to. So, I just wanted you guys to be aware since it is the city shelter, so.
And we got everything set up with LifeQuest, right, that we were talking about? We feel good about all that? As far as allowing them to volunteer?
Yeah, the main thing was a chaperone,
Right.
but I think the biggest, they have the rule of three, where 3 people need to be present, and I think that since it is girls, we're just gonna take it a step further and make sure that there is a woman, adult there.
Yeah.
Especially since they're leaving that premise and all
From an
that.
insurance perspective, as long as they're signed in on a volunteer log, that's the bare minimum from our insurance company. Obviously, best practice, you get teenagers and you get around dogs that could potentially bite or something like that, is that they're gonna wanna be supervised and well taught. And hopefully it's a win-win. Hopefully it's good for the girls and good for the animals.
Yeah, we came up with a set of rules for our volunteers at the shelter in relation to how they deal with LifeQuest, and also rules for the teenage girls with how they interact with the dogs. And I'm happy to give them to you, but a lot of it is just like, they can't be alone with the dogs, not to put their face in the dog's face. Just a lot of safety precautions.
We might ought to look at having an agreement with LifeQuest itself. Maybe we could do something like that.
Okay.
Just-
But we're open. Like I said, this is very new territory as well, so we're just moving very slowly. But Monty was all on board, and he's looked at our rules and the guidance sign off and stuff, and he's happy with it all. But I'm happy to give it to you guys to see and all that, so.
Well, we really appreciate you and Jennifer.
Thank you.
You are doing great work.
She's doing it all.
Thank you.
So, Dan, what's LifeQuest?
That's the girls' treatment place right by the courthouse.
Oh,
The old retirement place.
okay. Thank you.
Little known fact, Monty is married to Bishop Eve's daughter.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, Bishop Eves passed away, or
Right,
Judge Eves.
Judge.
That's what I was looking to say. So,
Yeah.
well known. And they have been running LifeQuest out of there now for
Wait, which daughter?
who is it? Lorenzens. Okay, so
How was
I
that?
got that confused because,
Okay.
okay, thank you for fixing that for me. I just knew there were people that we knew that have been involved since it started, and it's been there for like 3 years now, or longer maybe.
I think it's been longer.
We all appreciate lessons in
Yeah.
genealogy.
Yeah.
Connecting the dots, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're gonna move now from public comments and into the consent meeting. So these are items that are generally approved by one motion. We have the approval of the city council meeting minutes from October 10th, 2024, and the approval of the warrant register for October 24th, 2024.
Callie, do we mention that? Okay. There was a correction, just minor, there was what was it, Callie? I said it was a motion and a second on the fire chief.
Yeah, I forgot to put who made the motion.
Yeah, who made the
Who made
motion,
the
who
second.
seconded it?
And so I found that and I did correct it. Rochelle made the motion and I think Sharon seconded it, so I corrected that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the consent meeting agenda 5 and 6 with the corrections that have been stated.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thanks. Now we'll move to the action meeting. Item number 7 is approval of Lindsay Hauser to serve on the theater board. And as you know, I'm very grateful to anyone that will serve on any of our boards and committees, and we're definitely excited about Lindsay.
Can I add a little bit on that? Last week, we had a theater board meeting, and they've talked to Lindsay. She's willing to do it. She's super excited. It was a unanimous, vote, I guess, on the theater board as, to bring this recommendation to city council.
All right, so now just a motion to approve her on the theater board.
I'll make a motion to approve Lindsay Hauser to serve on the theater board.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I have to say any opposed because I've been scolded a couple times, so just bear with me.
And I was gonna say, if anybody opposes, they get to volunteer for this one too.
All right, item number 8 is approval to amend the Sunset View subdivision, combining lots 43 and 44 to create lot 43A.
Do we have a thing to put up? Did we have this on the work meeting, or was that just planning and zoning that I remember?
Just planning.
We did have do we have a work meeting in city council?
I don't think,
I don't
just
think
in-
so, 'cause it was just in planning and
Just planning
zoning.
commission. So this was a recommendation by planning commission. The reason why it's coming to you guys is because a lot line adjustment is not a city council act, that's something that's done in planning commission. But a subdivision amendment, which this particular lot line adjustment is, does have to come to city council as the land use authority. And what it is, if you look on the graph there, on the left, you'll see the new lot 43A, 0.65 acres. That used to be lot 44 and 43. This is out, in the Sunset View subdivision, older, subdivision in town. There's a house currently on the one lot, and there isn't a house on the other. And where they wanna build a garage is right next to the property line, which is not allowable because of the setback, but they plan on combining them and using them as one lot anyway. So, came to planning commission sent a favorable recommendation forward to city council. I can answer any other questions as you have.
With the water on that property, do they just combine to one? Like, it essentially just has one water right or whatnot?
Exactly. We have not, addressed, that's the way it is now, and they haven't asked for anything, but, we do need to, we're gonna put it on the next water board agenda. Since we've kind of updated our water code, we never answered the question, what happens when you have two entitled lots that get combined to one? Since it's at the wishes of the property owner, you know, they're essentially losing the entitlement to one connection.
Well, that's, to me,
What is
what happens.
What happens?
That's just what happens. You
Right.
lose the one right.
And we can just leave it, 'cause that's all that happens now is nothing. It just now becomes one lot with one
Yeah.
entitlement that they're already
Right.
using.
It's no different than the subdivision being put in with that as one lot to begin with.
Right. So, the water board wanted to have a conversation about it. We'll see whether they come back with a recommendation of who knows what or nothing. But there's nothing to stop doing what we're doing on this in the meantime. The only thing that makes this one interesting is the lot, the street that you see there, Nicky Street, that runs vertical, is unimproved. It's not an improved part of the subdivision yet. There has been some talk about doing an assessment area there. There's also some, momentum to have a private developer, work with the property owners to develop that privately, 'cause that is not buildable. That upper lot is not buildable currently. By combining them, they can build on it, because it's now a lot that is on an improved street. But and I've told the owners that wanna do this, this doesn't get you out of being involved in an assessment area if that happens. You would still be involved to some degree, no matter what. But, which they didn't bat an eye at. They just they have their building bought and they wanna put it down and they're trying to get a building permit. They don't really care, but anyways.
All right, so if there isn't any further discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve the Sunset View subdivision combining lots 43 and 44 to create lot 43A.
One more thing, sorry. We're putting a PUE, public utility easement, down the front. That's a practice we're gonna wanna do, moving forward, because nowadays we put the utilities in the front, even like power and some of those things are buried along the front. So this is an opportunity for us to get that PUE, since we're combining this. So you'll notice that PUE, it isn't anywhere else that you see there, but it is there because that's kind of our new practice moving forward with a subdivision, and this is a chance to do that, so that's an addition.
That PUE doesn't need to be mentioned in this.
No.
Okay.
It's recorded in the legal description, so it's
Okay.
there.
Well, I move to approve and amend Sunset View subdivision, combining lots 43 and 44 to create lot 43A.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you. Now we're moving to item number 9. We kind of touched on this during our training last week, and so we realized we needed to bring it to the city council's agenda. This is the Administrative Land Use Authority and designating those members so that we can continue to move forward with the Hanson group that's helping us put that together. So, Dan, do you want to give some detail on that?
Yep, this is a new, the concept of this didn't exist until the state amended the, subdivision, requirements. We have Hanson Planning Group, contracted and working on our subdivision process. I think they're getting close to being done. When they get done, it'll go to Planning Commission and then come here with the ordinance. One of the decisions we had to make to give Hanson Planning Group was, who are we gonna designate as our administrative land use authority? Administrative land use authority is a brand new thing that the legislature invented, and it is the group that will approve subdivisions if they meet our code in the future. It can't be the city council, it can't be the planning commission. We had to create this new entity. So we threw it at planning commission and said, what do you guys think? What do you guys think this should be? They came up with a recommendation. So kicking it to you guys, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's gonna be the city council's decision to update our code. They came up with the concept of a 3-person committee. It can be 1 person, it could be 7, right? We could subcontract it to somebody else. But they came up with a 3-person committee, which was the zoning administrator, the planning commission chairperson. It can't be the planning commission, but it could be a member of the planning commission, could be on the committee. And they also came up with the assistant zoning administrator. So in our world right now, I just gave you the titles, and we'll put the titles in the code, but in our world right now, that's me, Larry, and Keith. That was their suggestion. This isn't an official act. I'm just gonna tell them, and they'll write it into the new code that they send to us. So might as well put it in there the way we want it. This was one of the decisions we needed to make. And it wasn't until we had our work meeting last week that you guys were like, hey, we never even looked at that. And so that's why we put it on the agenda for you guys.
No.
Can't be anybody on the council or the mayor.
Yeah, we got planning.
They didn't want a legislative person, the city council or the mayor on there. This is what they said, it can't be a member of the city council. They didn't say anything about the mayor, but the chief legal counsel for the league was like, I strongly suggest you do not put your mayor on this. How about the police chief? Oh yeah, he said I recommend that, but.
Okay, well, then we're gonna amend that and put him on it.
Well, I'd just like to make a comment. I think that, you need to have the planning and zoning chairman. I think that's good, and the city manager, but I think you should have somebody with their boots on the ground. I think you should have the public works director that's familiar with streets, water, sewer, power, so forth, because after the fact, the engineers are gonna still evaluate it and give it their approval. And so I think in the process, you need somebody that's really in touch, and I think those 3 individuals could be a pretty good mix.
So Dave brought this up to me earlier today, and Councilman Burton, sorry, and the thing I like about that is the Public Works Director is gonna be the person who actually approves the pipes under the ground as they're built, and the road, and the sidewalk, 'cause they get different inspections throughout the subdivision process. So the Public Works Director is involved in approving it on the front end, and then is actually the one going out and inspecting it to see that it got done right. That makes a lot of sense to me. Jeremy does have a role as well, but I don't see Jeremy with his hand up. Do you wanna be on that committee for approving subdivisions, Jeremy? Okay. So, yeah, I mean, my only suggestion is we just don't have a committee of an even number. It could be one person. That's a lot of responsibility. Not responsibility, let me put it this way. If there is a subdivision someday that there's a lot of controversy about, this is the committee that is going to have to approve it per code if it fits our code. And it may not be a popular decision to approve a subdivision that we administratively have to approve. So there's a lot of pressure to make sure that they do their job right, that they do see that it fits code and all of that stuff, and then approve it. When they meet, even if it's just 3 of them in my office or in the conference room, it is a public meeting. It's a really interesting thing that the legislature has created here.
I think it should be noted that the annexation still belongs to the city
Oh, yeah.
council.
And we will still have it will still go to planning commission for a public hearing. You can only do one, and it can either be at the preliminary plat or the final plat of the subdivision, but you can only do one, you have to choose. But the planning commission does not give the final approval. This group does.
I like the suggestion of Public Works Director, just because if it's by title, it isn't, we're thinking about individuals today, but in the future, that wouldn't need to be amended if we did combine, right now we have an assistant, we also have a city manager who is the planning administrator, so if that ever divided in the future, this wouldn't have to be reworked, but also I think the boots on the ground, logical person in the room that can go, this doesn't really work very well, because I can always feel that disconnect between there's a bit of a common sense thing, and it brings that common sense to how this works in practice.
And I agree.
If we have the Public Works
I think it's
Director.
possible in the future, if we ever split off the role of zoning administrator from my title, we're not gonna have an administrator plus an assistant. Right now, we have an assistant because I share the title with city manager, which is a lot of work. If we ever split it off, we're not gonna have 2 anymore, and at that point, we have a problem, So are you saying you'd rather leave Keith on and take me off?
And I also think that Keith will be present in those public meetings to continue to be part of learning and growing in his position, but this gives us, again, another set of completely different processes as far as thinking about the way these things play out and how they really work in practice.
So does this need to go back to planning and
No,
zoning?
this is not, it's on an action, and we probably ought to have a motion and a vote, but ultimately, we're just telling Steve what we decided, so he can put it into the code, and then it'll come back through in its official form anyways.
Okay, well, I move to form the Administrative Land Use Authority consisting of the city manager, the,
No. Zoning administrator.
okay, the zoning administrator, the, what am I trying to think?
Public Works Director?
No, well, yeah, the Public Works Director and the Planning and Zoning Chairman.
There you go.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Right, motion carries. We're moving now to item number 10. This is the approval of potential waiving of water rights, building permit fees, and exactions for Parowan High School's building project. And we already had Councilmember Topham make the statement that she is employed by the Iron County School District. So this came about because we have been asked to write a letter or do something, and we realized we never really even came together to make a decision about how we would want to handle this, and so that's why we're here tonight with this on the agenda.
Okay, so, I'll give a little bit of background. The school, project that they're working on, that new field house they're building, is not subject to the city's, building authority. So they don't have to get a building permit from us. They do not have to have inspections from the city building inspector. However, that does not exempt them from needing to follow our code. They buy utilities, they get utilities from us and so forth. The new public building has a new sewer connection, a new water connection, a new power connection, and so forth and so on. We met with them, we approved their utility plan of their new utility hookups to the city. Jeremy spent a lot of time with them. Kelly, before Aldo got here, and myself spent a lot of time with them. In that conversation, we told them, you do have impact fees, you have connection fees, and so forth. The impact fees and and water rights, right? Water rights have to be deeded when we put in a new connection. They're based on the size of the meter. This was a little bit of an eyebrow raiser, I think, from the school district. I don't think that they had calculated some of these things into their building costs. At one point with this field house, there was ideas being bantered around that the city might participate in some of the fees building it, because we were talking about being able to use this new what did they call it? Lunch at Cafe Recatorium or whatever it was?
Yeah, basically.
Cafe Gymatorium. And at one point the school district said, rather than contributing cash, how about you contribute human capital in the form of a rec director, so when you use the facility you have an employee on site that can run it. We have talked about, of course the school district uses our soccer fields, and some of our other facilities. We've been talking about a workable agreement, which doesn't exist yet, that would allow each entity to use each other's facilities, the school district to use our facilities for some of their athletic programs, and us to use their facilities for our city rec programs, as they do in a lot of cities. We haven't yet worked through that agreement, but the concept was floated, what about these fees? Do we want to waive them? I know the school is hoping that they don't exist, or I'm not trying to say that they're being bad actors. I'm just trying to say they would rather not pay these fees. I don't think that was factored in when they got their bond and were planning on building that building. There's different fees. I'm going to explain them, and then we can talk about options. First of all, we have connection fees. This is our actual hard cost of, let me get rid of that. This is our actual hard cost of connecting. We have, with our power fees, we actually had to run high voltage wire. We had to put in a new transformer. This is actual out of pocket, real costs. Same thing with water. There's a water meter, and I think that water meter may be the 2-inch meter, and they have upgraded it since to the 3, so I think that one is slightly off. Sewer connection fee, they actually ran the entire connection. That's just what we have on our fee schedule. So you have about $37,000 in connection fees, and I don't think they had asked to not have to pay those. I think that they were anticipating that. Impact fees is one that I think that they were thinking shouldn't apply, or weren't aware of what they were. In a normal building permit, we cover this stuff on the front end before they ever even go to the county to get a building permit. And of course, they don't have to do that process, so we haven't been forced to have that conversation, other than just talking to the principal and to Hunter Sheen, the buildings guy. Impact fees come to about $74,000. Now, the question is why would they have to pay impact fees? What impact fees do is they will now demand more on our system for water. They will demand more on our system for power. Impact fees pay for their impact on the system as a whole, because now we have to get more resources. We have to upgrade trunk lines. That's why everybody pays impact fees, right? So the existing citizens don't have to pay for new growth impact on the utility system. So that's that. The big one, which is will always come and grab you when you're not looking, is water rights. According to the size of meter that they requested, they would have to find and deed 5 acre-feet of water. 5 acre-feet of water, according to the last market rate analysis that I did, it's about $23,000 per acre foot. That's a water right equivalent value of $114,000. All of that adds up to $226,000. If you subtract the connection fees, which we plan on for sure billing those, that's $188,992. One thing about the water rights that is a little bit of a it's not exactly a true number there, because the reason they went up to the size of meter they did into this field house is not for their culinary usage. It is due to the fact that they had to go back and change the system so that they had fire flow. In order to have fire flow sprinklers in the system, they have to have a 3-inch meter. In other words, they don't have hardly a lot of water use in that building. It's a huge cafeteria, gym. They have like a small little kitchen or a kitchen for the cafeteria and some bathrooms. Certainly not what would use daily a 3-inch meter. That's a ton of water. So if this was a commercial entity and they were going to have to build this, what we would say is get a 1-inch connection for your culinary and bypass it for your water and actually separate the two. But they have just one pipe and the 3-inch connection. So if we are going to go through with making them pay for this stuff, they're probably going to want to reconfigure that water meter anyways, because to have to get 5 acre-feet of water for a fire system, we don't require that. Any of these commercial sites, they actually just have it, they bypass it. So anyways, but if it's a trade on paper, we don't really care as much, right? That's just what the value of what we're giving them would be. So, I talked through a bunch of numbers there. I don't know if everybody followed me on the whole deal or what you guys think, but that's my setup for you.
Well, I think we need to work with the school district and try to maintain and develop a good relationship there, but we also need to have something that's valid, that signifies the consideration on both entities of what you're getting and what you're receiving, what you're taking, so that if we're going to get use of that building, then we need to have that specified and spelled out. And I know they talked about having a rec director and so on, but then if we're giving this type of consideration, it's got to be documented in an agreement, because councils change, boards change, administration changes, and this needs to be acknowledged so that Parowan's protected and the school district's protected. But I think it's important that we maintain a good working relationship, but then we know what we're getting and they know what they're getting and what they're giving. And so that we need a contract, in essence, that's valid and something that we can, both have as a reference so nobody's accusing each other of getting more or less or whatever. We need to get the proper value for what we're giving. And I think, Parowan needs this. They've said we can use it, but we need to make sure that it's concrete and in some type of an agreement. That's what I feel. I have no problem with working with them and trying to, make these concessions, but they are valid and they're real.
Yeah.
And so they need to be
Well, if this was a commercial entity, we'd be collecting that.
Yeah.
So it's not other than the weird fire thing, it's not paper, it's real.
So tonight, are we just approving the, it says a potential waiving, so this is just opening that discussion with them about this option?
Or should we table this until we get an agreement?
May I add, it's an initial first impression to me, and I would want to look at, just to make sure legally what our parameters are. What concerns me is the school district, has becomes, if I'm a citizen and I'm paying taxes to the city and I'm also paying taxes to the school, and now we're trading, you know, we're gonna waive this connection fee or pay your water's free. We're gonna cut your power in half, but we're giving you the bid. I need to look at that. I don't know, stated simply, I don't know how much horse trading you can do between two taxing entities, and I just wanna make sure the lines are clear.
So while you're looking at that, we'll send you did they give us a template letter that they wanted us to, or did they just say we need a letter that says?
And that's kind of what they needed in the letter, but it wasn't
Okay.
templated.
So we'll loop you in on that. Also, you might call, your buddy, Mr. Bittman. I remember him negotiating with the county on a similar deal on a jail about getting additional water rights from the county because the new jail will be bigger than the old jail. So I know they've been looking into this issue. Trying to think if there's anything else that I could throw your way that would be good.
Yeah, no, that would be helpful. I just,
Okay.
I know we ran into it in another town that I had, and for every bond election for every school, and, you know, I have one child, oh, sorry. I vote for every bond election, because I love kids, and I think we should, but I've had people call and say, wait a minute, I pay taxes to the city, and my taxes just went up to the school district. Now you're telling me you're gonna use the taxes that I pay to the city to supplant and pay more to the school? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a truth in taxation issue, I guess, as much as anything. And so I just wanna make sure we're clear legally so I can give you.
The other thing to keep in mind while you're looking at this, well, other than the park impact fee, these are all our utility companies, which are enterprise funds, not the general fund. We even pay our own selves for our own utilities from the general funds from the general fund accounts to the utility company accounts for the use of water and things like that. So just, again, more things to wrap your head around, so.
But we're not talking to just giving, we wanna get something back that's of value. And so when somebody's saying you're just giving it away, we're trying to get equal return.
I understand, I'm just saying that when you're talking about basic utilities and funding to utility services, and you're saying, okay, we're trading that for a basketball court. I gotta figure out if we can do that.
So after this discussion, probably in order would be a motion to table this item.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm requesting that motion.
A motion to table the item number 10, approve potential waiving of water rights, building permits, fees, and exactions for Parowan High School building project.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, that motion carries. Moving now to item 11, this is election signs. So I was prompted by a community member, to go and take a sign out of his yard because somebody had put it in the city's right-of-way in front of his house. And so I went and asked, I think I talked to our chief and to our manager and said, can I go take the sign out of this guy's yard? And it's in the city's right-of-way, but it looks like it's at his house. And so we looked up the ordinance and found that we really didn't have an ordinance that addressed that in Parowan City. So we'd fall back on the state ordinance, and that's when we, decided we needed to bring it to council to talk about it. In the meantime, somebody went and took the sign out of his yard.
And in the meantime, I just got a letter tonight about a sign advertising businesses on, like stop signs or that we need to remove them.
Okay.
Obviously, it's related, but
It's related, but slightly different.
slightly different. So just a real quick recap, we do not have any city code about campaign signs. We have given direction to people as they have, ran for office. But as far as an actual written policy or actual written code, we have none. And this comes up every year during elections. The ones that get really heated are the municipal elections because it matters to us locally so much more. basically, the quick summary is the state, it's a Class B misdemeanor to knowingly remove a sign, with the exception if, 2D, you are a public official who removes the sign in accordance with an official duty, right? And then if you go down later in there, it talks about it, and there's two kind of important points to note, and they make perfect sense when you think about it. A local government entity, a local government officer, a local government employee, or another person with authority or control over public property that posts or permits a person to post a political sign on public property shall permit any other person to post a political sign on the public property, subject to the same requirements and restrictions imposed on all other political signs permitted to be posted on the public property, and may not impose a requirement or restriction on the posting of the political sign if the requirement or restriction is not politically neutral and content neutral. So bottom line, we can permit it if we want to, and we could deny it if we want to. We just have to do it across the board.
You can't pick and choose.
We can't pick and choose. If we're going to say nobody can do it, nobody can do it. If we're gonna allow it, we cannot do it in such a way that it's going to be anything but neutral in how we go about it.
And that just to, oh, sorry, go ahead, Sharon.
And I just think if we're gonna have it, we need to enforce it.
Well, and that's, so this is what I was thinking. Option one, we approve them all, but if we approve them all, we clearly gotta put restrictions, because signs in the right of way in most cases is the roads. And the roads have a lot bigger right of way than the actual road, but now what's the restrictions? You know, what about putting it in front of somebody's house? What about how many feet within the actual road itself? What about how far from an intersection? Think of, signs that now actually could interfere with traffic. What about a time limit before and after an election? Must it be a person that's on the ballot, right? If you read in the definitions, the political sign is about whether it's a person that's on the ballot or a proposition on the ballot. What if somebody doesn't do it, doesn't remove it when you tell them? Would we say, okay, candidate, it's your responsibility, and if they don't, do we penalize them? Or do we just make a city thing that the city says, all right, it's not allowed once a day during a certain time, we go out and we just clean up signs. I saw UDOT out throwing signs into the back of a truck the other day. UDOT does this themselves.
What's option two?
Option two, we deny them all.
Like, that's such a waste of public, or of our taxpayer dollars for you to have to go remove a sign that maybe I forgot to pick up, or somebody else. That's not our responsibility to clean up the signs around town.
Right.
That's the person putting them there.
Right.
Right.
So even if the option two is they're not allowed, I still think let's put it in our code that says they're not allowed.
Yes.
And what happens if they do it? I was talking with an individual today who moved in from Vegas, and they said in Vegas, you'll notice the day after the election, the place is clear, because they penalize with fines if they don't remove their signs. And so,
So many days.
yep. So even if our plan is to deny it, we still need to have a thing that says whose responsibility is to remove the signs if they're there.
And I don't mean to advocate for the police chief, but having been involved in a couple of these sign wars, option two, or B, whatever you call it, is
Much better.
A, the most common, and B, the most easily enforceable by law enforcement.
Yep.
Question, what about mobile signs in certain places?
I think a sign is a sign.
Mobile
Well, like parked
Yeah,
it's
once
parked
they
on a
move around.
The trailer with the sign on it that kept everywhere.
If it's a political sign and it's in the right of way, I don't know if it says it has to be attached. We could put that in our code if we wanted to make sure.
But if they have something like on a door, you can't say you can't park your
But
car.
see, that's, if it's on a door, what do you mean?
On a vehicle. you
Car.
know.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
See, I mean, now you're getting, we can really get into the mud.
Yes, we can. But so last election, there was a sign on a trailer, and it would get parked and left for a few days and then moved around town. And it was left in the right of way. How would you deal with that?
Happens all the time with magnetic signs on cars too.
Right.
So how are you gonna enforce that? How are you gonna, what's to say that I'll use Councilman Burton. You can be picked on for a minute, right?
Always.
What was to say that I find a Councilman Burton sign and we get a complaint on one end right away, and I call him and I say, you need to remove your sign. And he says, I didn't put that sign there, I don't even know who put that sign there. And it's Councilman Harris, who's running against him at the time, has decided to go and pepper town with a bunch of his signs, places that's gonna annoy him.
It's still
But when we get into enforcement, it's,
Well, what
still is-
UDOT does is they pick them up. If they're on public
Yeah.
right of way or
Pick
on
'em up, get rid
public
of 'em.
property, there's no notice, there's no,
which is a,
they
it
pick
is
them
a
up
burden.
and they take them to the,
But it's pretty tough to enforce a B misdemeanor
Sure.
on something that easily could be a school kid prank or.
Well, the B misdemeanor is only
Right.
if you remove a sign and you're not
well,
authorized.
for a fine.
Oh,
For
a
a
fine.
fine.
Yeah.
Even if we do a fine.
I think whatever we do, if we say you can't do it in the public right of way,
yeah.
the responsibility's on the candidate, we still would wanna say, but the city can remove it at its own at its own ability
Right,
too.
and
So if everybody's like, I didn't put it up, I can get in my car as a city manager, drive down and yank it out, and so
Right.
could you, and fine. You know what I'm saying?
exactly. I just think when you.
Or we
put
could
it
even
in
say left up to
enforceability, you
the
should be careful.
determination of the mayor or designee or something like that too. Would you guys, I would like to see something like this put into code.
Yeah.
We could write it up pretty easy.
I thought it was.
I know everybody did. And we were right in the middle of it, and we didn't have a policy, so I was just like, we need to do this before the next election. That's what I told myself.
He said, I have a Ring doorbell, so but I don't know who put it out there, but if you'll come get it. And I was like, he's gonna record me carrying that sign. It's gonna look like, he's gonna play it in reverse, and it's gonna look like I put it there. I'm not gonna go get it.
Walking backwards. So,
Hey,
you
I have
wanna write
door-
something up? You want
never-
me to write it up? What do you guys wanna put in it?
You and I'll work on it, 'cause
Okay.
there's some, it's pretty common
Okay.
Is,
issue.
does everybody agree that you wanna deny them
And I like the days after
Deny
the
seeing
election.
them?
in the public right of way?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, deny it.
Yeah.
Or do we wanna define it now, or do you want,
No, I'm just saying, we'll bring back a draft code.
so you want to table this and have it?
Yes, and I'm now
Yeah.
saying, what do you wanna put in it, and Scott and I will work on it.
Okay, I move to table item number 11, election signs.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Talk about it.
Okay, and what do you wanna put in it?
Right, that motion carries. And what you're gonna be writing up?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
like
gonna
what
do the not in right of ways, we're gonna do a time limit to have them removed.
Okay, so that's a different issue, but we could definitely do it at the same time. What we can't do is we can't restrict somebody having a sign in their private property
Right.
past a certain date. So if they can't put it in public right away, then there's no point in doing a time limit,
Right.
Okay,
because they can leave an election sign up year-round, that's their free
Mhm.
speech.
Mm-hmm.
so nothing about the candidates needing to collect all their
Nothing about a
signs.
time limit, because we're just gonna remove it all in the public right away, or have them do it every minute that it's there. So I don't think a time limit matters. Anything else? What about, so we'll address the, mobile thing versus something that's on a car, and whose responsibility is it? Any thoughts there? Do you guys think that there should be a fine if they're not complying, or not? How punitive do you wanna be if they're not complying?
I think this could be you.
I would just say,
Or
have,
skid-
you know, a warning or something, just, I won't worry about fines or anything like that, 'cause
Or a time limit, like if you've been talked to or verbally warned or something.
I mean,
Well, if they're just parked there for a short time and there's a sign on a car, I don't
Well, it'd be
think
one
you
thing
do.
if,
We're gonna
like,
exempt a sign on a car, but a mobile sign that's on a trailer?
Yeah.
Or a
or you're
bicycle.
unhooking
Yeah.
or something.
I don't
unless-
know, that's hard to write, I don't know how,
I'd recommend that we make it an infraction, set a fine of $150. And as far as the warning, law enforcement always provides a warning, and then the second level of warning is then it comes to me for formal charges, and then I usually call the chief, and they go, I warned him, and so oftentimes I'll call the person and say, you got warned, okay, I'll never do it again, and then we discuss, and so It's not like somebody's gonna get cited, that's $150 fine, see you in court. So, I'd just say infraction, $150 fine, I'd recommend.
All right, thank you. So we're gonna move to item number 12, which is Resolution 2024-5. This is Public Entity Resolution to authorize access and/or transactions with PTIF funds.
I think we're familiar with this.
I think so too.
Yeah, we just did this a few weeks ago. This is just to add, Jerry. In fact, when we did it, we said we'd be coming back with our new treasurer. This is to add Gerald Ross to be able to interact with the PTIF. And so he will be on there and I will be on there still. And that's typically the way, and that's actually a requirement that the treasurer statutorily is able to do that. And then I'm the backup, so.
All right, so I'm going to move to approve the resolution 2024-5, public entity resolution to authorize access and/or transactions with the PTIF funds.
Do we need to mention the individuals' names?
Adding on Gerald Ross and continuing with Dan Jessen.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Burton.
David Burton, aye.
Sharon Downey, aye.
John Dean, aye.
David Harris, aye.
Rochelle Topham, aye.
Motion carries, thanks. All right, now moving into our work meeting. Item number 13, we get to hear from our prestigious he just did this last night in Power Board meeting, so he's polished. This isn't dress rehearsal, this is
It's super exciting.
it is.
Yeah, I just figured since this meeting's gone so fast, I'll have Callie pull up my 60 or 70 slides and see if I can make you guys last a little longer. No, there's really only about 20. And I went through it real fast last night at Power Board, and Dave gave me this look like, what did you just say? So I'll try to make it all make sense. Oh, sweet. Don't know how to use this. I'm just kidding. I think we're good. So the presentation has a few slides of like the specifics of 2 natural gas projects that UAMPS is looking to build. And then we'll go over some of the power sales contract details, and then what benefits or what needs Parowan City has. We'll go through us specific. And then the contract that Callie sent out last night, there actually has been a few amendments, and so I'll be resending that out. And I'll highlight the 2 sections that have the amendments, and I don't really expect you to read it all. I know Scott said he scanned over it. I read it, majority of it.
All 200 pages.
It's really, really fun reading, so so we'll move on. So the 2 projects, first, UAMPS hired an outside company to do an integrated resource plan in 2023 after the nuclear project was not built. And what that resource plan showed was that UAMPS as a whole, most all members, are very resource deficient. Everybody needs more resources. And they selected natural gas as kind of the bridge for the next 20 years. And so that's the 2 contracts that we're talking about. So the first plant is a peaker plant, meaning that we can change the input or change the output as needed for our load. It will be in the Fillmore area, somewhere in Millard County. I can't remember exactly where. It's 200 megawatts. Commercial operation date is 2029. And then the baseload facility, which should run more like our coal plants, round the clock, as long as we have fuel, which we shouldn't have a problem with natural gas fuel, hopefully, is a 360 megawatt plant, and commercial operation date of 2031. So I talked about where this one's located. It is quick to ramp, so if we have solar or wind type resources that are intermittent, this can follow those loads quickly. It is placed near natural gas and transmission lines, and will be capable of burning hydrogen mix if we have more legislation on greenhouse gas emissions. Here's just a timeline, 2025, the cluster studies, the biggest driver of the urgency of this meeting and, the Power Board meeting. UAMPS wants to try to get all these power sales contracts finalized by the end of November. And then you can see the commercial operation date of 2029. The other plant, the combined cycle natural gas plant, in Power County, Idaho, which is near Pocatello, I believe. Same, as far as hydrogen mix, located near natural gas. And 360 megawatt, combined cycle plant means that the plant will run natural gas to turn the turbine, and then the heat from the natural gas they'll use to turn a steam generator. So you basically get two generation sources out of one technology. Same timeline, the 2025 cluster study is what's pushing it, which we'll talk about more. And here's more on the costs of the electricity output. So the peaker you can see is a little more expensive. And we'll talk more about Parowan's needs of I think the peaker UAMPS recommends it to be about 15% of our overall portfolio, and the base load about 40%. This next slide kind of shows where they compare with other resources that are being looked at or built currently. So the peaker on top, which is the Fillmore area one, and then the combined cycle on the bottom. So the combined cycle's in the middle of combined cycle natural gas, but the peaker's near the low end for something that you can ramp up and down. This slide we didn't have in the slide deck last night. This is just, UAMPS provided this today, just showing that they've looked at other options of not ownership by UAMPS. If we went out and purchased and then had another entity own and operate, the LCO pricing is between $160 and $220 a megawatt hour, which is more than double of the combined cycle plant and probably about 1.5 times of the peaker plant. So looks this basically just saying that ownership by UAMPS is the best way to go. This is about the timing issue of the cluster study. So any generation that requires transmission has to get into the Pacific Corp cluster study, and before, like a couple of years ago, to get in the cluster study was not really a big deal. You just signed up and said we need generation, and they would study it and charge you for it. But because they have so many different resources trying to get into the cluster study, they've changed to where they're going to require a $5 million deposit for each of the plants. But that's just through a line of credit. They won't. I mean, UF doesn't suspect it will use all $5 million, but they do require the deposit to kind of weed out the pretenders that aren't really serious about building plants. And if we miss this deadline, likely be January 2026 before we were to get back into another cluster study, just pushing these projects farther down the road. If there are any questions, stop me at any time. So next steps, get control of land. UAMPS has already met with quite a few landowners in both areas, and been in discussion with them. It doesn't sound like the acquisition or leases of land should be too big of a problem. Submit permits and that, and then procure long lead time items. So some items have a three-year time frame, so they want to get those procured as soon as possible. And then once the transmission path is transparent, which should take about a year for the cluster study, then they'll look at engineering, procurement, and construction. All right, key terms of the contract. So this is a cradle-to-grave development, meaning UAMPS will purchase land, build the plant, provide electricity, and also decommissioning when the plant is no longer feasible. And then the very bottom part, the baseload plant in Idaho does already have UMPA, which is Utah Municipal Power Agency, which is similar to UAMPS, just with different members. They are a joint owner in this, I think up to 17% of that plant, not the peaker plant. So we already have some commitments, and they have, also, paid up into towards the cluster study already. So they'll be a good partner. So the contracts must be in place before we go to financing. That's the urgency of this meeting. Let's see, and then, costs include all debt service, operating and other costs incurred by UAMPS for the project. The near-term costs are obviously the transmission, land acquisitions, and permits. And then there will be no billings to members until energy is received unless the project is terminated. So it's similar power sales contract that we did, actually in CFPP also. Nebo, Horse Butte Wind, and Vail we're not members of, so we have not seen those, but very similar to most UAMPS projects. And I think the power sales contract that you guys received yesterday said, the subscription at 90% is when the sales contracts will be authorized, but UAMPS has, changed that to be 85% subscription, and then they will try to gain 15% more subscription over the next year from outside entities from UAMPS. We're already, if all members that have already committed, stay with their previous, commitments, well, plus or minus 5%, we're at the 86% mark right now, so that shouldn't be too big of an issue unless people decide not to do it, but there is a need. And then obviously you can only exit under the terms of the power sales contract. Lots of terms in the contract, the development period obviously. So that allows the PMC to determine when to proceed. So after the power sales contracts are signed and we move on to the next phase, UAMPS will create a PMC, which is a project management committee, to basically govern the project. And then, somewhere, maybe it's on the next slide. So the PMC has certain delegations to where, if the price gets too high or we can't get the 100% subscription, the project management committee can vote, by supermajority, 75% or more, to kill the project, basically. So the power sales contract requires governing board approval, and there's a supermajority vote portion right there. So that'd be 75% of the project participants and 75% of the off-takers of the power, so the megawatt hours. Kind of talked about that. Yeah. And then, the PMC, there was another note I had on the PMC part. Basically, if the project does not reach 100% subscription, the PMC can decide to downgrade the output, but that would come with a higher cost most likely, so the PMC will have to set certain cost targets. So if you remember in the nuclear project, we had off-ramps where we could get out at certain points. This one doesn't really have off-ramps, it has defined dates or prices that we have to meet, and if that doesn't, then the project would terminate. So there are protections, even after we move forward. So this is more Parowan specific. So the peaker is recommended 0.57 megawatts or 570 kilowatts subscription, and 1.4 megawatts for the Power County base load, which is the combined cycle plant. So this graph.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Why did they recommend that if that's cost more?
Because the base load resource will run round the clock, and then the peaker which you'll see on this next slide, you can see, not this one, the next one, sorry. So the peaker plant kind of fills in your gaps. You can ramp it up and down.
Oh.
And so you don't want to go, you don't want to have any in that because you don't have the variability.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it costs more as it is.
Otherwise, when we need the peaker, we would just be buying off the market. And we would rather use the peaker at a higher cost than the market at an even higher cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gives us flexibility.
So this graph shows our current resources. The blue is Hunter. The yellow is Colorado River. I don't know why the things didn't show up on the bottom of that slide, but And then the red is our peak load of that month. So as you see, that should say 2032 right there when Hunter ends. That white gap in between is what we're trying to fill. So this slide shows that Hunter going off in 2032, the peaker plant coming on in 2029, and then that more green bar that fills that middle void there is the combined cycle plant coming on in 2031. Then as Hunter goes off again, we're still gonna be resource deficient. So that purple is a future nuclear or some kind of baseload PPA, geothermal maybe, something like that. And then that blue on the far right, clear back, I think it's like 2045, 2050 timeframe, would be like a solar PPA or a wind, some kind of.
Excuse me, Jeremy, is that 100 date hard?
It's not hard, but it is recognized in PacifiCorp's integrated resource plan as the day that they plan. And I think the reason they set that date is as certain legislation comes down on that date, they're either gonna have to move to scrubbers or decommission, and the cost of scrubbers are gonna make that plant not compete with these other plants. So as of now, that's what PacifiCorp is saying is the deadline of that plant. But
Thank you.
always subject to change.
And it's
Good question.
PacifiCorp's decision, right?
Do
Do we have some,
They are the largest owner and they are the operator, but UAMPS, Deseret and UMPA are also owners, and they have all expressed that they want to keep it running as long as they can, but if PacifiCorp backs out, then the costs become all of. And
we certainly can't gamble that it stays open, but we
Yeah.
hope it does.
yeah, I mean, UAMPS desires to run it as long as possible, as long
There
as
been
cost
any
effective.
flexibility on that IPP at Delta? I've heard different, on shutting it down versus.
So the coal part of IPP.
Yeah.
The legislators did ask IPP to keep the coal portion of it semi-intact as they build the natural gas. Natural gas actually comes online in next year. But I haven't heard where they've settled that. Don't really have a taker for the power yet if they keep the coal plant. And there's a whole lot of transmission problems, coal delivery issues. But it is, I mean, the legislature does have a desire to keep it, but it's still gonna be EPA, you know, if you have to put scrubbers on it, you're obviously more cost.
Question with these two plants, how much power is going out of state? Do you know the percentage?
One of my last slides will show the current entitlement
Okay.
of the plants, which, we're almost there, so that'll help answer that in
I'll
just
be
a
quiet
second.
for a minute.
No, it's a great question. And this is just the methodology they used to form these graphs. They figured us at a 1.7% load growth annually. That's pretty close to what we've been, but with some of this commercial, we could see a 4 to 5% load growth easily. So that could be conservative. And then it says, yeah, Hunter on the graphs is only assumed to be available 7 winter and summer months, which is how we're operating it now. That's why you see the little white bars between the Hunter blue right there, is it's not running on your shoulder months unless market price is higher than Hunter, then they'll start Hunter. Nebo and Miggs were not part of. Nebo's the natural gas plant that you see off the side of the freeway by Payson. That's a UAMPS project, they own that. And then Miggs is member internal generation, so a lot of the members that have their own, like Caterpillar generators, natural gas generators, we do not have that currently. And then it just says IPP is not credited, so but we still do have that callback option. But with it going to natural gas, it's not as flexible as it was during the coal. We used to be able to call it back seasonally. Now I think we're gonna have to call it back annually. I have a meeting in November 18th or something on the future callback. And then, new non-dispatchable resources that are considered. Fremont Solar is a project that, UAMPS has been looking into. It's in Iron County. It's solar and battery. And I have signed a study agreement, just so that they know we have we wanna be, informed on everything that happens with that in case we do wanna look more into it. And then, as I talked about, the graph showed new nuclear and then to be determined dispatchable energy on the graph. That's a little hard to see, but will answer your question, Councilman Dean. So this is the UAMPS members that are currently in this project. So as you can see, Idaho Falls is a UAMPS member, but they're not involved in these two projects, mostly because they have so much hydro from their Bonneville Power Administration that they don't really have the need for this. There's a few members that are only in the peaker, not in the combined cycle and the other way. So the two columns on the right is the 5% increase, so that the power sales contract says, I think that there was like a 90% is what they wanted to get to, but the 5% increase is what UAMPS has asked us all to step up to so we can get to the 85% for the power sales contract. But that's an amendment that I'll send out on the power sales contract.
Are most of these members of UAMPS?
These are all members of UAMPS.
All of them?
Yes.
Okay.
So as you can see, we're only 86% on the combined cycle and 87 on the peaker. So UAMPS will look outside of UAMPS to try to fill that gap up to 100%. So, and I think UMPA in the combined cycle is 17%, and that number's not figured in there. I think that gets us to like 301 megawatts of the 360, if you count their 17%. But it doesn't get us to the 100%, because that number's still not counting them, and that's just the UAMPS individuals. But if we can't get to the 100% and we have to downsize the project and the costs aren't there, then this project will still not move forward, just like the nuclear. But there's a desperate need by all members to need resource, and it needs to be soon.
Is it safe to say that if we get to that point, UAMPS would come back and say, okay, everybody kick in a little more, let's get to 100%? Or risk this thing not happening and everybody being in a
Yeah, I think they would come back and say, anybody that can go up, let's, try to. And, the combined cycle plant would be pretty hard to decrease the output, because you'd be changing technology. The peaker plant is actually a combination of 10 to 12 units working together, so you could cut a unit or two out of them to get to a lower output. So that'd be pretty simple, but the other one would be really, really hard to...
So Jeremy, these are all members of UAMPS?
Yes, they are.
Paraguna?
Yep. Paraguna is a member of UAMPS.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Because I thought they had wheeled in through Rocky Mountain.
So they're similar to us. Rocky Mountain feeds the edge of their town, and then they
Right.
take it in town.
Okay.
Yep.
So those
Yeah.
two plants, 82% of everything coming out of those plants will be going to UAMP?
To UAMPS members, but yeah, if you look on there, like Truckee Donner is in,
Yeah,
yeah, so there are a few outside entities, but they are UAMPS members.
beautiful.
Yeah, so
Would
so this plant would be all, other than the remaining 15% or 14%, will be all UAMPS members. This would be UAMPS owned by the members, basically.
So would they, the rest, whatever, 17%, whatever it is, would they sell that off to someone else then?
They could look at an entity that would like to join UAMPS and just, for other resources, or, yeah, they look for, maybe a large, user of power that wants to join. It could be like a data center type, or I think they'll look at every avenue just to get it to the 100%.
You look at the number of participants and you spread it across those people that are already, or cities that are already saying they'll participate. I'm sure they'll pull it together with the people that are saying they're in.
Yeah.
Do you sense that we're flat-footed if we don't do this? Because that's how I felt after the meeting last night.
Yeah, I mean, I've just, the last few UAMS meetings, I've just felt like we need to build something. Like, there's an urgency, you know, and getting any kind of project online takes 4 to 5 years. I mean, the transmission, just a study takes a year, and then to build it, and then to, engineering, I mean, you're 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, we gotta do this sooner than later.
And I think we gotta give UAMPS some props for,
Oh, yeah.
they put this together quick. When the carbon-free project failed, they worked on this thing like fast.
Yeah, I think that they felt like going out to somebody else to do an integrated resource plan and look at all their resources, all their load, and this is what they came back with for right now. Natural gas is quicker to get online, it's price competitive, it's cleaner than it's ever been. And I think we all would have liked to see the nuclear plant go. It's a great baseload resource with no carbon, but there's a lot of fear involved. But I think eventually there'll be small nuclear projects that we will get back into.
The one that was in Washington, state of Washington, were they building one up there nuclear?
So the one that we were looking at was was developed in Corvallis, but it was gonna be built in Idaho.
And wasn't there another one that they were going to build, and some people were leaving that one and going up to Washington?
There's been a bunch, like there's the natrium reactor
So
that
they do have others being built?
Yeah, it's a little bit different technology, a little different fuel, but there are multiple small modular reactor technology being looked at.
Can we just call them smodular?
Smodular, that's a good one.
I like it.
You don't wanna watch me fumble through small modular reactor?
I just like modular. We're all waiting for those modular reactors.
I'm sorry I missed the meeting last night, but I was having fun with friends in Park City.
You got the meeting just now. You didn't miss
That was definitely a
anything.
lot better than the meeting, huh, Dave?
Yeah, that was better and faster.
Yeah. Last night, Dave had a question about the $5 million
Yeah.
study, which is a good question, but that will be basically spread amongst everybody, and it's, like I said, it's a line of credit they'll draw on as they study and what they need. But then we won't be billed until the project, until we're taking money out of it. So basically, UAMPS will continue to bond and have lines of credit to kind of get us through.
And that's part of the subscription thing. You wanna spread the cost across 100%. It's not just taking power from the project, it's the cost of building the project that needs to get spread across 100%.
So out of that 5 million, we're dividing that up by, was it 27 members of UAM?
Yeah, and then obviously we're a
By
lot
the
smaller
Yeah,
off-taker
yeah,
of
we're not
power
as big
too.
as the others.
You know, if you're in, your entitlement's 25 megawatts versus 5, you know, it's
You're paying
5
more.
times.
Quick, what's 2% of 5 million? Anybody? 100,000, right?
250,000.
Jeez, look at that.
No, 100,000.
10% of 5 million is,
No, I said 2%
oh,
of 5 million.
2% of 5 million, so 10%.
100,000.
What's 10% of 5 million? 500,000.
Mm-hmm.
So 5%'s 250,000.
5% would be 250,000. So it'd be what, 120?
Just a little over 100,000, yeah.
Is that New Harmony?
Now we're having a math lesson.
Cedar High math.
Hey, his dad was a teacher.
Luckily, I went to SUU.
So, I'll send out the other power sales contract and just kind of highlight the changes. And then we'll have 2 weeks if you want to read them and look at them. If you have any questions within the next 2 weeks before we take this to action. I mean, obviously, if you look at almost every UAMPS member is on there.
There's a lot of believers in it, so.
Yeah, well, natural gas is not first of a kind technology. I mean, UAMPS owns natural gas plants now. You know, these are not don't need near the de-risking as a nuclear plant. There is still the carbon aspect of it, which is a little bit scary, but I mean, with the technology they have now, it's so much cleaner.
Oh, I was gonna say Sierra Pacific, but that's Rocky Mountain now. They all their coal plants went natural gas.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have a need as Parowan, and UAMPS definitely has a need overall.
And the only question, and no one can answer that, is what's the government gonna do?
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, we actually toured, in Tucson last week, we toured a plant just like this peaker one, same technology, same engines, and the operators of that plant said that they're using it a lot for their own resource and for market. It's been a good asset to them.
Where did you tour it at?
In Tucson, at
Okay.
TEP, Tucson Electric Power, they have a 10-unit peaker. They're same Wärtsilä manufactured engines. So it's already out there. So,
It's needed
yeah,
desperately.
that's all that I have, unless there's questions.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, thank
That was a great presentation.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for working so hard for us. Going to all those meetings.
Lots of them.
And can I say, in
Thank you.
working with Jeremy, I'm very impressed. He knows what he's talking about, and I appreciated working with him. I called some of the other UAMP participants, talked to their lawyers for his suggestion, and it's very helpful, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're a good man.
Appreciate you. Look at the contract. I was just like, I want your eyes on it too. Scott actually asked me, he's like, well, if there's a need, what's your concern? I'm like, I just want your eyes on it. I'm not really nervous. I just want you to see it in case I'm missing something. You know, but I mean, I think the
So,
contract's.
Jeremy, what exactly decision are we gonna be making?
So basically to approve the power sales contract so that UAMPS can move forward with the transmission cluster study. And then form the project management committee, and which during the project management committee, in the power sales contract, I think it says it delegates me authority to act for Parowan, which anything that changes or dollar figure, I'd obviously bring back to you guys, but gives me the authority to represent Parowan in the best, to my knowledge.
And at the end of this study, we'll have the option to formally approve the participation in it. Right
Yeah.
now, we're gonna be risking our percentage of the $5 million thing, which we determined was $100,000 at worst. And then there's an off-ramp at the end if for some reason we don't wanna do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the PMC can set the price, and if we know the price is gonna come in, then, yeah, the project can terminate at that point, which we'd still be liable for the cost up to that point of our percentage of whatever has been spent.
Right.
So at the end of the study, we'll have a means of making that final decision as far as whether there'll be an
Well,
exit option or not, right?
well,
It's almost like at each installment is if you continue to belly up to the bar is kind of how I understood it. And then if you don't, you're off, but if you keep coming with your part of the,
yeah, if we
that you
pass
need
the power sales contract, that locks us into basically going forward with the project until the project management committee decides that they're not comfortable moving forward.
Okay.
And so the project management committee will be made up of all the UAMPS directors from not each of them cities, but anybody that's involved. So I will be on the project management committee.
So every city
Has
will
a
be
rep.
doing the same thing as we are.
Yes.
So we're in at that point, and to get out, it would be the entire project getting out, and we have one vote of everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the time for the city to make the decision, and at that point, the whole project itself may decide not to do it. Jeremy will have one vote of everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. And it'll be based off entitlement share too, so.
Right.
So you have two ways, so two different categories, I guess, that can.
So it's a weighted vote.
Yeah.
Our vote is smaller than
Well,
Logan with 30 kW.
yeah, but it would still take 75% of the members, not just so there's two caveats. There's the outputs that you take, your megawatt hours, and there's also still 75% of the board.
Of the
or
total number.
Committee, yes.
And would you
That way the little guys have a say.
would you agree that it's also important to understand, it's like get in now,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because it's gonna cost you more, and
Yeah.
if this thing becomes what we think it is, others it's gonna be a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
Is that true or
Yes.
not true?
And also, if we as Parowan don't get in now, and UAMPS builds this project, and all these members already have these needs covered,
Correct.
what's the
There may
next
not be
project?
another
We're
project for us to
alone?
get
No
in.
chance.
No,
We bu- you know,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
What
that-
other ideas do we got? Because
Yeah.
this
No, it's-
this is what we need to do.
Get in or start looking for something else.
Yes,
Yeah,
So
and the
if-
options for
by
other-
If
ourselves.
this goes forward, when would they have it up and running? They,
So the peaker plant in 2029 and the combined cycle in 2031,
okay.
I believe.
Pretty fast.
Okay.
Considering what
Excuse
has
me.
to be done.
And the other question, I haven't heard of any of those on that list that have
We may have to get it.
been reluctant. Have you?
No, it's been pretty
Pretty
good.
positive.
The only thing that I've heard at meetings that have been concerned is the timing of this power sales contract. Everybody's like, what's the urgency that we need to approve this by November 30th or December 1st? And the urgency is if we miss this cluster study window, we're January of 26 before we can get to the next cluster
A
study.
whole year, yeah.
Yes, another year, and then they have to study the transmission for a year. So, there has been concern with the urgency of these meetings, 'cause, no, I mean, for us, we're not gonna have a second November meeting, most likely, 'cause it's Thanksgiving. So, we crammed Power Board in last night. I think everybody's pretty comfortable with it last night. Have this meeting today, and then 2 weeks have the action. Like, we're up against the timeline as much as anybody. But that's the only real concern I've heard is like, why are we pushing this so fast? Well, the cluster study
Yeah.
shows it, you know. And then once we get the cluster study back, if transmission's so expensive, we don't have to move forward with the project. You know, as a management committee, we'll set parameters that protect everybody.
We have to look at least.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy, appreciate
Thank-
that, helps
you.
me.
Yep. All right, we're now gonna do reports, updates, old business follow-up, and we will start with Council Member Topham, if she's ready.
I'm always ready. Okay, just kidding, not always, but. All right, so we had a theater board meeting a week ago Tuesday. They are talking about possibly getting card readers, so that they can take debit, credit cards for theater tickets, because there's a lot of people who are wanting to do that. So Jet is gonna talk to Roger and get some prices and stuff on that, because also the internet's not super awesome out there, and so they will need like an internet connection, maybe that's stronger than what they've got out there. So she's gonna look at some possibilities, get some prices, and then we'll look at that at our next meeting. And then they're going to be getting the carpets and the windows cleaned, hopefully by December. The theater's been rented out a lot, so there's always people coming and going and stuff in there, and things are needing to be cleaned. Do you want to add?
I just wanted to ask a question on theater board.
Okay.
Was that other scheduling issue resolved?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yes. There wasn't an issue. But it's resolved. It's resolved. And then, they obviously approved to send to us a new board member that they recommended, which we did awesome tonight, and they'll be happy about that, and she's gonna be a great addition. You guys know this is my favorite time of year. I love Halloween. I don't know why, I just do. But they are doing a Hogwarts Theater Halloween Spook Alley at the Aladdin Theater, so that's their theme is basically Harry Potter. And they're basing that off of, they're using basically the decorations that they just used for Puffs as part of their decorations, so they won't have to do like a ton. And that's gonna run from the 25th to the 31st of August. The Interact Club. Sorry. Yes, the Interact Club.
And Interact is basically the youth rotary.
Yes, and it is not a part of the high school. They are separate from the high school. I need to make that clear. What they're doing is like what the Interact Club is doing is it's $5 a person to get in, or if you bring a can of food, which then they turn around and donate, it's $3 if you bring food. So everybody go out and support, go donate food, go through the spook alley. It's gonna be super fun, and I'm so excited. Okay, that's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Well, I had Power Board, and you all just heard about that. Jeremy did my update for me,
There.
so,
Can you recap?
if you would, but that's all I got for you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Big shout out for, the pickleball tournament. That was, I'm not sure if you were gonna do that or not, but you
No.
played it. So, you know, it was a great turnout, and then actually, after the pickleball on that Monday, the courts were filled again, and today, there was, quite a few people playing pickleball down there, so, being used, not by me yet, but, let's see. I have everything written down so I can go quick. So, I met with, Kristen Robertson from the Heritage Foundation to go over some thoughts and ideas about improvement of Meeks Pond and Pioneer, Farmstead Park area. And also, every once in a while, I live pretty close to it, so anytime I see a fisherman, I stopped and, just see how they're doing and how they're enjoying it. I didn't know there was big catfish in there, so they always have pictures and look what I caught, and I mean, big catfish. So that was neat. And, and they've always been, very positive, I said, is there anything else that you see that, some people, said, it gets a little muddy, down by the water, but, maybe look at, some gravel down the road. But just some thoughts to go with, that whole area. I'll be meeting, Tuesday with SUU horticulture person along with, another, citizen in the city to go over questions and concerns over the conditions of some of the areas. And then I'll report that back in 2 weeks. And, let's see, just big shout out to Public Works. They just, a lot of limbs out there, so. And Power, Jeremy, thank you. You got that big ladder truck too. Thank you for loaning that for the pickleball court for that day. 'Cause, those beams were heavy. And we're almost there to get Healthy Utah. So close. We just have to wait for them to, email. I had everything filled out, and then they say, oh, we're gonna email you, a form to fill out online. So that'll be looking good for March. That's it.
Great, thank you.
I have nothing except the pickleball tournament, right?
Do you wanna report on it? You're
I will
definitely,
report that we do not need a plaque or a plot. It was great. We played with three, I don't know, how old are they, 26, 28-year-old, two guys and a wife. And it was a ball. It was a ball, and I'm sure every other player also enjoyed it. It wiped me out for 2 days. But it's great. It looks great out there. And they're being used because they have a little message center between everybody. And, okay, I'm going to be out there at 9 o'clock. Who's coming? And you get all these messages. They just go out there. It's great. It really is.
Do you think we're gonna need to adjust our season of the indoor as a result of this? Will it affect the demand for the city rec program for the indoor courts up at the, you know what I mean?
Well, I
Yeah.
think they go up there on Monday. I don't play enough. I haven't played for
I'm
since
just
the tournament.
wondering if it'll affect
But
our.
I think they play up there on Monday nights indoors.
in the dark, in the winter.
In the winter they'll play in there. Summer, I doubt it, except at night.
And we are planning on closing the courts seasonally. We will, when it gets to where there's gonna be snow on the courts that stay, we'll remove the nets, and we're gonna have some closed signs that hang in the openings, just to keep people off the courts.
Cedars Courts got ruined the first year, because even though there were postings about not using shovels, people still use shovels, and so they had to resurface after the first year because, so we just decided to just make it not even attractive.
Yep,
What-
we
what
can't play if there's no net.
What we need to make
Mhm.
sure is, if we have tournaments, that they have the porta potties there.
We tried.
By the way, that guy never dared to call me back. I've sent threatening emails and where the heck and what's going on. Never responded to a single thing. Never brought him.
So, Dan, could we use
I'm
those
hoping a bill comes, 'cause I really wanna let him have it.
in the downtime, could they be used for like corrals for horses or cows?
No.
We're talking about the porta potties?
No, no,
No, the
for-
court.
we could raise
I know.
revenue.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And I wanna give a big shout out to Public Works for picking up the branches. I mean, that was, I think the best thing the city has done.
Yep, I
They're
really,
still hauling trees today.
like, my
Oh, yeah.
street hasn't been done yet, but they've been down, and it's just, I just felt like it was such a community building opportunity to get out and talk to your stinking neighbors. I mean, I'll even say I'm not great at getting out, but my husband and I help pull trees out to the street, and you would die how many are out in front of our houses on our street. It's crazy, and we're half a block.
So
So-
compared to the Mother's Day event of a few years ago, is this as bad? Was it 3/4 as bad? 'Cause that was like Armageddon.
I don't think it was as bad,
But it was bad though. The Mother's Day massacre, yeah.
This year was bad, like,
yeah, it was.
it was bad.
That Mother's
Mother's Day was worse.
had more
Yeah,
snow.
they let us out of church early and said, just go help everybody.
Yeah,
There
Go
there
home.
was more snow at Mother's Day.
I agree, there was more snow.
It was a spring thing too.
It wreaked more havoc at my house this year, only because my trees are bigger than they were, 5 years ago or whenever that happened.
So that's it for me.
Thank you.
Okay, we think most of you, well, we all met that planning and zoning, but we approved that Sunset View subdivision, at least they did for recommendation, which you approved tonight, the combining those lots. The geotech guys, Jan will have to report, but they didn't hit bedrock on the water diversion structure, so hopefully we'll keep looking for bedrock. And, there was something else, but anyway, I can't think. Anyway, I think we've all noticed the straw bales on Main Street, they're looking pretty good. So you can go over and look at my two guys roasting marshmallows. And, there was something else and I can't remember, so I guess we'll have to, I'll think of it.
Right. What do you have?
Okay, you may have noticed there's signs on the city building and on our drop box. We do not have an election drop box in Parowan city offices anymore. This was a decision by the county clerk. This was always used as a satellite, spot where you could drop off your ballot. Due to the new, requirements that the state has put on, the needing to bolster the security for election stuff, there has to be 24-hour cameras on the boxes. The county invested a lot of money into some really heavy-duty, nice, drop boxes, across the county. They figured it was, a lot of expense to have a drop box here and a couple blocks away. So there is a 24-hour literal drive-through drop box at the courthouse, but there will not be one inside our building. So we have signs to try to intercept people before they walk all the way in, just to find out they can't leave their ballot. So just wanted to spread that news. We may do a post. On Monday, our new communications person is gonna start, and we've got a lot of training because their primary job is to answer the phones and answer questions, and there's a lot of training to get them up to speed. But also, pretty quick, you'll see us doing a better job communicating with the public. We will have more social media content, more posts. We're gonna have a revamp and work on our website, and anyways, that'll be, we're gonna do spotlights. We're all excited about all the stuff that she will start working on. The next thing on my list is new people. We will formally introduce them in the next city council meeting when they're actual employees, but we did, finish the hiring process for the two, additional positions that we had open in the city office. So, we will have one face will be familiar to most of the community. The other face is also a community member, but maybe a little lesser known, but we've hired two people that are, city residents, so we'll formally introduce them. We finished the roof repair on the pavilion of the park by the library. If you look at that, you'll notice like it doesn't even look like anything happened. We did budget to do a metal roof, and you'll notice it's not a metal roof. We budgeted like $17,000, the metal roof budget actual cost came in much higher than that. Plus, as I was talking to vendors, they said, you do know there's no, warranty the second you get snow on a metal roof. And the individual I was talking to said, not only that, if your concern is wind, which is what keeps hitting that roof and tearing the shingles off, he said they actually make a product of tar shingles that has Kevlar in it and nails on the whole thing that's like rated to like 150 miles an hour. He said, you need that. You don't need the metal roof, you need that. It ended up being like less than half the cost of doing the metal roof, which would have been over budget, and so what we ended up doing was doing the shingle roof with these high wind rated Kevlar shingles. They look just like normal shingles, but he said you can't rip one by hand if you wanted to. Anyways, ended up coming in way under budget and doing that. So check. We got the thing done, and it should finally be repaired without tearing itself apart again. If it does, we have a warranty. Parking lot repair, we have been going around town doing a lot of chip sealing, or crack sealing, in anticipation for the what do you call it? The work that'll be done in the spring to do the chip seal. One of the things, we will be doing crack seal tomorrow morning in this, parking lot here at the city offices, which is just going downhill fast. So we're gonna have to have all the vehicles out tomorrow, and we will not be parking inside the parking lot, cause they'll be doing crack seal tomorrow here. And that's good, cause every time I walk out to get my truck, it stresses me out. If we don't take care of the parking lot, we'll lose it. Tree cleanup was the last thing I had, but you guys already covered it, so that's all I have.
Okay, I'll go really fast. We walked the courts with Stilson to talk about the final invoice. There are a couple little things they're gonna do for us to just make it even better. Anna wanted to let everybody know that they've decided to do like a Thanksgiving tournament, and if the weather doesn't, hold out, it'll be indoors, but it's gonna be called the Gobble Grinder. It'll be on November 23rd. They anticipate it's gonna fill up fast, just like the other one did. I kinda half attended virtually. The APA was an APA land use training. That was yesterday. I was in and out of it. Dan was.
No, it wasn't APA, it was Utah Land Use Institute.
Okay. And hoping we're gonna have that on recording. I sent out an email right before the meeting about a training that's online virtually on Tuesday at noon, and it's, basically a 6-council form of government, along with training for administrative staff, so hopefully some of you can be on that training. It's kinda similar to what we got when we were new electeds, but it's probably more in detail with what they're facing, you know, as far as things they're trying to sort out for cities all over the state. So a lot of contention around those things, keeping people in their lanes. We're moving forward with our cemetery grant, which is gonna give us that fence on the north side, and they're gonna come and visit us in very beginning of next month, and so it's kind of exciting to see that actually coming together. Also, I requested an extension today from the Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant, because I really started getting nervous about our pump track, because we've had so many things come up in between, and they were very gracious and wonderful, and basically I'll write that up tomorrow, and we'll get that extended, because it doesn't make sense to rush that and push it through, and we're going into winter. So excited about that, and maybe lighten the load a little bit of public works as we go into the winter. The last thing, the Patchwork Byway, we had a long meeting about our interpretive kiosks. It's a really cool project. It goes all the way to Panguitch. We had public input period. We had quite a bit from Skylar from Forestry, but other than that, not a lot from the public. But fortunately, we reached out to a couple local photographers. One of them is Diana Peterson, who submitted some pictures, and then I don't know if anyone follows Melody Penrod on Uncensored. She does a lot of photos, and she's awesome. I reached out to her, and she said we could use her photos, and she's also gonna drop off a zip drive, of additional photos. So we're gonna have, right now, they were done with stock photos, which just kinda killed my heart. It's like, we have better than stock photos. We've got some really great photographers in our community, so that's good. That's gonna move forward. We actually added a couple weeks to that to give us more time to gather content. There isn't a rush on it, so it didn't make sense to push that through just to meet a calendar deadline. Other than that, little bit of talk around town, and I just wanna throw it out there into the universe. Just kind of exploring the idea of an assisted living facility for Parowan. And so if anyone, just putting that energy out there. I know quite a few people that have had to put their family members in Cedar or Beaver, and I just keep wondering if that could be a possibility for the future of Parowan. And it really came to a point with me today when Councilmember Burton was in the office and some people from Bryan Head came and wanted to buy cemetery plots, and we all of a sudden realized if that population grows, they're gonna be wanting to be buried here, but also I think about the people as they age, not being able to do that altitude. So it's just, again, just a thought, and love to hear your ideas about it, and if you're around things that let's try to figure out something, because I do feel we miss having a facility here in town.
Yeah, like, we used to have that, and then that closed down, and I don't know why. I mean, I don't know the reasons,
But with that population up there, and having a mom that died of breathing issues, lung issues, I mean, you can't be at that kind of altitude as you age if you have anything going on with your lungs. So, we'll have more residents in the future, and I believe in, putting things out there, because I know we all wanna do good things for our community, and maybe it's 5-10 years out there, but I wanna start looking toward that being a possibility again. And other than that, that's all I have. What about you, Scott?
Just working with your city manager on, he doesn't have a lot of things going on. Annexation and airports and contracts, and that's just before noon, but, he's a joy to work with, and that's the truth. We're very lucky to have him. And in the category of good news, just before I came here, I was on a Zoom call with my sheriffs, and Sheriff Glover said to tell Chief Adams that 2 Ford F-150 trucks have been approved in that grant and will be coming forthwith. That's huge. There's a lot of jealous police chiefs and sheriffs out there that did not.
That was pie in the sky. We didn't even dare to hope that we might get those in that grant.
Pretty cool. I didn't have anything to do with it, but it's pretty.
That is good news. Jeremy had Christmas come early yesterday also.
Woo.
There we go.
Are you giving rides? Are you giving rides, bucket rides? Okay, I'll take you up on that. Or you can take me up on that. Ho, 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 ho.
Callie, do you have anything? And just to compliment Callie, she's been holding it together in the office every day, showing up with a smile as we worked through some pretty challenging transitions. So we appreciate everyone being patient on the agenda this week. We had some up in the air items, and she was hanging in there for them, and then people didn't get their emails, and
And it was a payroll week.
Yeah, all the things. All right, with that, I will entertain the last motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Yay.
I forgot to say this, it's just for you guys here. Community service announcement. Dances with Community Stars is, Tuesday, November 5th.